Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Mojo Market Report right here on a Football Thursday. It is Dave Sturchio. It is Chris Gueci. It is A5 Anthony behind the glass here from Chop Studios. Week 10 is here. Believe it or not, unbelievable how this, I said believe it or not, unbelievable. It still is. It is unbelievable how fast this NFL season is moving. It's almost depressing. But guess what, folks? We're in the middle of the NBA. We're in the MLB free agency is about to hit. So there's a lot of other sports on the horizon of one Mojo. So we're excited about that. Not excited about the Knicks getting sparked last night by the Nets. But I digress with that because there's a football show right now and lots to go over. Obviously, we have Thursday Night Football. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we've been talking about the quarterbacks all week, whether it be the superstars or the mid-card guys or just guys that we just have our eye on, right? I finally started the feature on the Mojo app with the watch list. Have you done that? I've actually started to entertain that, but it is contract year, okay? And this is not for everybody, obviously, but some of the guys on my watch list now are on their contract year, and that's a big thing in Mojo because one of the first things I noticed when Mojo started going was the movement of Russell Wilson when he got his big deal when he was traded to Denver. We saw the spike, right? So that's possible within the market. So if you're invested in some of these guys we're about to talk about today, there's a possibility that A, they fall off the face of the earth and never get a starting job again, or B, they get a big deal and they get a nice little bump in their price.
Yeah, or C, they don't really get a big deal, but they don't get a huge bump in their price because they're in a very similar situation, i.e. they re-sign with a team.
Yes.
But I still think a contract that's guaranteed money for their starting jobs in the NFL, that's huge in the Mojo market. So maybe
for sure.
Any contract that's long-term is going to give you a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, and we're going to start right off the rip with one of the guys we've been focusing on for the entire year, and that's Geno Smith, because what better story of Geno Smith's emergence or reemergence into the NFL? Now, look, he's had himself a long, storied career. He was forgotten about. He was a career backup going into this year, competing for the position with Drew Lock after Russ Wilson was shipped out of town, right? So Geno Smith has absolutely done a phenomenal job on the season. He's about to hit 2,200 yards in 9 games and 15 touchdowns or just 4 interceptions. He's got a 73% completion percentage. That's incredible. He's having himself a year. And the biggest thing to me right now is that he's winning. There's relative football being played in Seattle. Now, Chris, the question is, like you just said before, the market share price, clearly $24. He's right now in between two backups, Teddy Bridgewater, Mitch Trubisky. A little disrespectful, in my opinion. Because, look, they haven't, again, the jump can't be so significant unless you want to use a multiplier in which you offer 10 times on Geno. But I ask you this, is he going to wind up in the same situation, or is Seattle going to lock him up? I went on record and said this guy's the future quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. Do you believe in that?
I mean, I think define future. Do they have him locked up for the next
4
5
years?
I would say that Geno gets a 3-year deal or a very Kirk Cousins-esque deal where it's not too long-term, but they're going to guarantee him a decent amount of money because where he's at in his career, he's a wily vet at this point. It's not like Geno's some young guy, but you see what happens when you stick around in the league for a long time and you have the skill set, and then now it really just comes down to breaking down defenses. And he wears the wristband, so there's a plus there because if you saw the news that Pete Carroll came out and said, things have picked up this season with the offense where they're a lot faster because there was resistance to wearing the wristband before, and obviously he was taking a shot at Russ. And Russ did fire back. He said, well, I won a ton of games over there with no wristband. Yeah, you did. But
And then he got traded.
So long story short, yeah, I do believe Geno re-signs with Seattle. I don't think they're going to franchise tag him. I think he's worth a little bit more than that, or not worth that for that matter, because the quarterback franchise tag is probably going to be
It's projected to be $31 million next year.
No, they're not going to tag Geno. And I don't even know if you're taggable on your third or fourth deal. Right, Geno's been in the league for a while.
I don't know if that's a player-by-player basis. I think that's just a thing that a team is able to do. You could slap a franchise tag on anybody.
So you sign a 1-year deal with the team, and then you're in your walk year. You're allowed to sign. You're allowed to franchise. I don't think so.
I don't know. That's interesting.
That's a good question.
We should ask the masses.
Yeah,
that one's very interesting. But if you look at his career or last year over here. He's obviously up 54%. And again, if this was around last year when Geno Smith was still hovering in the league, if you decided to use the 10-time multiplier, you'd be up a whole lot of money right now on Geno Smith. Now, the course of the year, I think he's gained about $9 in value, so that's pretty crazy. The future value, however, is scary, $11. So now you have to ask yourself, does the market think that he's going to be the guy? It does.
It does, because like I was saying, he's not the youngest guy. And if you look at some of the other quarterbacks that we've mentioned over the last couple of days, if you look at around what he would probably bank per season, it's probably in the similar to the Ryan Tannehill range, maybe a little bit more if he's playing this way, but you have to assume there's going to be a little bit of regression as defenses pick up what the Seattle Seahawks are doing. But yeah, it looks like they agree that he's going to get a contract. Geno's a starter in this league for the foreseeable future. I just don't know how long-term that is with all the talent coming in. And I'm not sure what dollar amount they're going to give him, but it's going to be the Seahawks. They have receivers. I think DK is locked up. Lockett, not yet, I don't think, but I think that there's going to be some money to pay him because Geno's not going to demand this massive deal, and that allows you to really kind of disperse the money. And we'll talk about your boy in a second and why I don't know the Cowboys will re-sign him.
All right. Well, he's just so you know, Geno Smith up 21% in the last month. Again, he could be up 210% if you use a 10-time multiplier on him. So if you're interested in Geno Smith, now's the time.
And I also think that based on where he is, if you're looking at the guys that are around him,
he's 38th overall. He's not even like in the top 32
with Teddy
right
Bridgewater and Mitch Trubisky. It's like that's exactly where he should be, considering that he hasn't started in this league and he's been in. He's been a starter.
So he's going to jump a couple spots.
I would say that
within the next couple months.
Yeah, over the next maybe this season, he's going to get some playoff burn
within this year. Sticking with the quarterbacks, why not? Because that's what we've been doing all week. But one on the local front that everybody's going to be talking about in just a couple months when the Giants season comes to a crashing stop. I'm kidding. I don't know what the Giants are going to do. But Daniel Jones is the topic of conversation because of the fact that Danny Dimes is winning football games over there. Again, the numbers, they're okay. This year, he's thrown for just 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Nothing crazy. He's on the ground for 363 yards, so he is using his legs. The thing about Daniel Jones is, and when you look at a price like Daniel Jones, again, he's sitting right underneath Justin Fields and right above Baker Mayfield. So he's the 34th ranked quarterback on the market. He's up 4% in the last month. My biggest question is this, Chris. New regime came in there. Brian Daboll, everybody loves him. Joe Shane, everybody loves him. There's a whole new thing over there with New York. And they have a significant future ahead of them with a lot of young talent. When you come in as a new regime, you usually like to put your thumbprint on everything that you do. Meaning, if you inherit players and they're just not your guys, you tend to move on from them. I saw a lot of that in the Dallas secondary. When Dan Quinn came over there, he said, all right, you're not the guy. You are. You fit my mold. You don't. Does Daniel Jones fit the Joe Shane mold and the Brian Daboll mold going forward to ensure that he's going to get himself another contract?
Now, I think Daniel Jones has some talent. He's way faster than people think. I just don't know that he fits the mold of what they would like. But in this league, you don't always get what you want. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they have him, he's winning, he's playing efficiently down the stretch. When I say down the stretch, I mean late in the game.
Right.
Daniel Jones is playing well in the second half this season. But I don't envy the position, as we're going to talk about Saquon. I'm just going to tease that now. I don't envy the position of having two of these guys on contract years at the same time. Yeah. It would almost be better for the Giants if Daniel Jones shit the bed. Excuse my language.
Totally justified.
Because then they could just move off of it. And I don't think Daniel Jones makes them better over the next 3 or 4 years. But because they're in the spot that they're in, they're winning some football games, it's going to be a hard sell to the fan base. Get that, to not give Daniel Jones money.
I know.
I don't want to.
I am here for it. I am here for it.
Could I just say, could we pull up Saquon next? I don't know the order of operations.
Yes, he is next, actually. Saquon Barkley
we're just going to kind of talk about these guys.
Go ahead, Ann. Pull up Saquon.
Because I think Saquon gets the franchise tag now that we looked at it, and it's like $11 million per.
$12 million for the
estimated
franchise tag, yeah.
I think that's probably where they're going to go with it. I do not think Saquon's going to be happy, but I think because there's a little, touch and go with where the Giants have played, the metrics don't necessarily add up that they should be a 6-win team at this point, but they are. I got to see how the season plays out on these two. If Daniel Jones doesn't play well down the stretch this season, then he could play himself out of that contract, or they could end up giving Saquon the big deal and franchise tagging Daniel Jones.
No, Daniel
Jones is not getting tagged at $31 million. Right?
No.
We could establish that no quarterback this season will get a franchise tag.
You would assume not.
Yeah. No.
I mean, unless
none.
I mean, we looked at the quarterback list. It wasn't
plentiful. Lamar.
Lamar might
We're not talking about Lamar
victim
because he's a
of the
Raven.
franchise.
We're just gonna
But when you're
assume.
talking about Barkley, now I'm looking at his last month right now. He's just down 1%. Nothing crazy on the movement, but he's back in action this week off a bye. So I'm interested in that. He's got a 5-time multiplier. He's the 5th highest running back on the Mojo Market right now. He's right behind Zeke, which, by the way, Zeke's 4th now. We were talking about him 3 weeks ago being the top dog. But it is what it is. But Barkley's at 5. And I was going to bring this up when we bring up our next running back, and I kind of will. The new contract for a Saquon Barkley is difficult. They could save a couple $1 million with the franchise tag, so I believe that could be the move they make.
Oh, they could save a lot more than a couple mil.
Well,
because he's looking
well,
at.
I'll let you know. Like the new high right now, and I was going to say this about our next guy, but the new high right now is on the average yearly is I'm sorry. Well, that's the next guy I was going to talk about is Christian McCaffrey at 16, Zeke at 15. But then you look at the ranges and you got like Aaron Jones making 12, Chubb making 12. So like these guys are going to have, if they get a new deal, they're going to have to fall in between that number. I don't know if they reset the market.
I don't think Saquon's going to reset the market because there is that two season stretch where he really didn't see the field.
No.
So that could end up being better for the future because he didn't have the wear and tear. But an injury is an injury, and when your lower half gets hurt and you're a running back, that's not a good thing for the future.
Not at all. Take a look at Barkley's future value, actually. What they're predicting him right now, or projecting him right now, is 11.23 future value. And again, over the last year, he's up 34%. So everybody saw healthy Saquon bust onto the scene, and I think that when he's healthy, he is one of the most dynamic running backs out there.
I think it's safe to say that Saquon is not going to leave the Giants, but I think it's even probably more safe to say at this point that he's not going to get a big deal in the offseason. He's going to get a franchise tag. There's going to be a little bit of anger out of the Saquon camp. That's what my prediction is. I'm not saying maybe they just pay him, but just looking at the way they've done things up to this point, even including like the James Bradbury trade was very telling as to how this organization is going to move forward. Like they're going to make the hard choice if they have to, and they're not going to care about the fan base. Paying a running back Zeke money, right? You know what that does.
It's $90 million over the course of his contract year, 15 a year.
All that guaranteed money. I don't think that they have a problem with the dollar amount paying him $15 million a year, but I think that they're going to have a problem paying him that much over a 4-year stretch.
But imagine being the agent. Like, what's your grounds to demand that money? Like, oh, I want this. Like, why? Because 2022 was a good year?
Also, we got to see what the Raiders are going to do with Jacobs because
let's go. Let's go to
that
Jacobs
also
here.
Makes things like the market needs to be set. If these guys actually do both hit free agency, I think it kind of takes a little bit of shine away from the first one that signs. The second one that signs might get a bigger deal.
It's a trickle-down effect.
Because there's
100%.
Only one left.
Right. We'll Josh Jacobs right now has a 5-time multiplier available. He's up 10% the last month. He's over 8% in the last year. This guy's getting a contract. It's just a matter of where. And by all signs of what's been happening with the Raiders, trading pieces away, but then also spending money on their defensive side, acquiring guys like Devontae Adams, they're going to put themselves in a very, very financial bugaboo.
I don't
think
it's realistic to bring Jacobs back.
They can't. And that's why I think this one's one of the more interesting ones because, again, this season he's killing it. 743 yards. He's seen pay dirt 6 times. He's catching the balls out of the backfield. Not a lot of yardage out of that, but he's a threat, right? But like Josh Jacobs right now with the price that he's at, which again is insane to me because he's ranked behind Joe Mixon and right above a guy that we're going to talk about in a little bit, Kareem Hunt. So I'm looking at a Josh Jacobs as a potential guy that because of his age, because of the year he's had, he's going to cash in. I think not as so much a reset of the market type deal, but Jacobs might be the first guy to sign and then everybody follows suit. That's what I think. If he stays on the way he's doing right now, the Raiders are dead in the water as far as a season is concerned. So that's where it makes me kind of timid because it's like, all right, if he knows he's on his way out, how much he already knows he's probably earned a decent amount of chunk of change going forward. How hard does he run going forward? You know what I'm saying?
I think he has to
a risk.
Proving that you could stay healthy throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
But if you're signing this guy and he has a little nick and a bruise, I want him to sit. I don't want him to play at all this season.
It'll be telling the Raiders are going to use him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Sabathia, the Brewers pitched him every third
day,
180 pitches a
game. And back in that day, which is way back when pitchers were men, and they actually pitched 8-9 innings.
So the usage for Jacobs down the stretch is important for me. The second thing that's important for me is are they going to be willing to franchise tag him? Because I don't think that they're going to give him a long-term deal because you just can't pay your receiver $28 million like they're paying Devontae.
Your quarterback.
The quarterback is getting 40 plus. And then you're adding in a running back that's going to be around 12 to 15.
Remember, they went nuts on Crosby on the other side of the ball.
It's all fine. Go nuts on that side of the ball because that's where you need it. The Raiders need defense. They need to be able to pay their offensive lineman, which has been playing well this year, I might say myself.
Look at Jacobs.
But they're going to need to pay other players. And when you have three guys at skill positions demanding or bringing in the bulk of your
Top
entire
dollar.
salary cap, it doesn't really add up for winning franchise. That's just how I'll say that.
Yeah,
and the Raiders have no problem being a losing franchise.
You could probably agree. 1,000%. There's no tag here involved on Jake. He is going to play for another team next year.
I don't know, because it's only 12. I could see maybe a tag, but I don't.
Not me. And I don't see Jacobs being the kind of guy that will play on the tag.
Well.
So it's either pay me or get rid of me. I don't think there's a whole transition tags, all these sorts of tags. I don't think that's happening.
I think I'm ultimately on the player's side anytime they don't want to play on the tag. But I also think ultimately the players in the current structure of the way things are, they have no leverage, and they ultimately all do play on the tag. Ultimately, they all do. It's just
because nobody wants to go without a paycheck. At push comes to shove, money talks.
$12 million is $12 million.
$12 million is $12 million. A guy that won't be seeing $12 million next year, but a very interesting story, is an Alexander Madison. Now, I know he's been the Robin to the Batman of Dalvin Cook over in Minnesota, right? And his value is super, super low because of the fact that, there's not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of... But when this guy goes in, he becomes like a RB1 right off the... I don't have any trepidation of, on a fantasy type thing, I don't have any trepidation of starting an Alexander Madison. Does that translate into the Mojo Market? Because right now, he's the 43rd ranked running back on the Mojo Market. He's above the Gus Bus, right? Is he good enough to be an RB1? Because I don't know if there's going to be any teams that, let's just say a Raiders, for instance. Let's just say they let Jacobs walk out the door. When you look at an Alexander Madison, is that the kind of guy that you could just say, there's our RB1, he can do it? Is that the guy? I mean, look, there's tread on the tires. Not a lot, but there is. He's not a rookie. There's 54 rookies coming in next year.
He's not getting much burn this year, which I guess is a good thing entering free agency.
And Cook's been hurt.
I think people know around football what Madison's bringing to the table, and I would say that he is capable of being a starting back in the league. I don't know how he could withstand a full season of RB1 carries because we've yet to see that, but I think he could probably handle that load for at least the time being. I just don't know. Because of the amount of running backs that are available, we're looking at some of the running backs that are coming into the league and a Charbonnet, a Bijan Robinson. These guys are going to be the Kenneth Walkers, the Breece Halls of the world next season. So as we get an influx of maybe 3, 4, 5 backs that are startable, and you're looking at a second contract for a guy that's probably, I think he's an established vet, but you might be able to get somebody in the third round at running back and pay him third round running back money and not have to give this guy Jamal Williams-esque type deal. What you see out of a lot of backups when they go somewhere else is not that they're not good enough to start. It's just that they're good in their role, and there's a ton of backs in the league. So this guy's used for that. This guy's used for that. You might see a very similar situation where he might get an increase in usage, but he's probably not going to be an RB1 next year. I would say Jamal Williams is my best comparison to
okay.
Alexander
Bring
Madison.
up his future right here, because this doesn't really, it doesn't project him to be RB1 next year. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of thinking that this guy might fall off the face of the earth. And within the last year, he's up 9%. But again, in spurts, the guy does perform. I just don't know if...
I want to do a math equation. I don't
sure,
know.
math on a Thursday.
I might push back on that a little bit.
All right.
What is his career value up to this point?
His career?
Yeah, what has he banked?
Oh, he's banked $3.24.
And his... future market is
$4.25. If you think he's an RB1, then you go long on a Madison because he's going to exceed this.
I think what the market shows is exactly the conversation we're having right now. It's I don't know, but I don't know not. If that makes sense.
And you know what's sitting there at $7.49? I believe that's what he was. Bring back the other one.
Yeah,
$7.49. I'm taking a chance. I'm taking a flyer. When I tell you guys, every single player that we're talking about right now, I'm either going short or long. I'm all 7 of them. I'm putting some kind of money somewhere because I want to see what the new contract does for a guy. Just as for me, for market research, to not do it anymore or to just continue to do that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to just continue to waste a roster spot on Alexander Madison in hopes that Dalvin Cook gets hurt. But no, I'm not going to invest in Madison. But I'm also not going to go short because there's a lot of confusion for me as to what's going to happen with him going forward. I don't think he's going to get a massive deal. I think you might see Madison sign on with somebody and be like just an added bonus. Like he could be a Chief by next season.
Like a Chase Edmonds or any of those guys.
They're going to put him in a situation like he's going to be a Dolphin. Watch. Every running back in the world goes to
56 running backs on the roster. Speaking of a running back that might get paid a little bit, Tony Pollard. I think he's earned it. I think he's showing that he's that splash change of pace back. He reminds me of an Alvin Kamara where I feel like he's built to not run in between the tackles unless that hole is gaping, okay? Outside runs, sweeps, jet sweeps, screens out of the backfield. This dude is electric. He's fast as all hell. But when I look at him, he's up 20% in the year, mostly because of the usage, meaning like last year, the big bugaboo around Cowboys Nation was we don't know how to use a Tony Pollard. You know, like we got Zeke. Well, we got Pollard. What do we do with him? We're getting him on the field more. And it never happened. But this year, he's on the field more. Why? Zeke, once again, hyperextends the knee. He's banged up, limited in practice yesterday, as a matter of fact. So does Pollard get the full load against Green Bay? I don't know. But when you look at this guy long term, Zeke makes $15 million a year. This guy's going to hover, I think, in the $9 to $10 to $11 million a year worth. You cannot pay $26, $27 million to your running back tandem. What's going to happen here? What's your opinion? I already know what's going to happen, but what's going to happen here? I don't actually know, but I have
think
a good
Dave,
idea.
what Dave hopes is that Zeke restructures, takes less money, and they give that money to Tony Pollard.
Exactly what's going to happen.
As they're sitting in the running back room, and he's like, can I get like 8 of that million? And Zeke is like, absolutely not, dude. Tony Pollard's going to get paid. I hate to break it to Dave, but it's not going to be the Cowboys. The minute this guy hits free agency,
you think he's gone?
I think he's gone. I think the minute he hits free agency, he's going to start getting offers, and he's going to start getting out. Teams are going to start talking to him like, hey, we'll bring you in to do this. And they'll probably be lying. They'll just use him in the same role the Cowboys did.
The Dolphins.
But I could the Dolphins are coming. So I could promise you that, as you said like 2 years ago or last season, that the Cowboys offensive coordinator, the whole bugaboo was that they didn't know how to use him. Well, there's tons of coordinators around football that know exactly how to use Tony Pollard, and they are going to be offering their services or their money to get his services. I believe Tony Pollard's out. Just about where he ends up. I like the player a lot. He does a lot of things well. So I agree. I see it in big bold letters in Dave's notes. Go long on Tony P. I agree. I'm going to go long on Tony Pollard.
Actually, I don't ever usually put my opinions on these rundowns, but I guess I did on this one.
Thanks,
I was very excited about this one. But right now, he's right below Kenneth Walker, right? And he's right above DeAndre Swift. So he's in that realm of starting running backs, and he's not technically a starting running back yet. So if you want to go long and bring up his like the future of him is actually relatively nice. It's $7.47 future value. He's only banked $4.68, which again, he's only got splash plays here. But over the last year, he's up almost 20%. It scares you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
How old is he?
He is only in his 4th year.
Scares me a little bit.
And because he's not a first-round pick, there's no fifth-round option.
He does fit my criteria of a guy that doesn't play every play, and he catches the ball out of the backfield. So that is my criteria for running backs. I love these types, and I do think he could last 4 or 5 more years. So yeah, I'm going to stick with my guns here, and I'm going to go long on Tony Pollard.
One more guy before we get into Thursday Night Football, Kareem Hunt. We've talked about Hunt at length because of the trade deadline, because of just his role over there. His usage is definitely down. Nick Chubb, it's almost like this is detrimental to Hunt's market value because Nick Chubb is just Nick Chubb, and he's just one of the better running backs in football right now, if not the best running back in football right now. So it's like you got Kareem Hunt now, who's definitely – nobody wanted to trade for Kareem Hunt. So he's going to see the open market, you would assume. But what kind of money does that guy guarantee? You know what I mean? Like what does he ask for? Look, I'll ask you straight up, and we can't spend too much more time on this, but Kareem Hunt, does he demand – Tony Pollard money? You know what I'm trying to say when I say that?
Like, yeah, I think Kareem Hunt might think he deserves more money. NFL executives are not going to give it to him. he's going to get around the same money as Tony Pollard. Yes, he's won a rushing title in the league before. If he didn't have the hiccup with the Chiefs, like God knows where his career would be at this point.
This is very true.
No teams wanted to trade for him. I think that's a stretch. I think that the Browns were a little skittish on their willingness to trade him because they got Watson coming back.
I thought they were offering a second, but I could be wrong.
They were offered a second?
I thought they were. Maybe I'm wrong.
I heard that they were offered a fourth and they turned it down. But
I thought that was the asking price. Was a fourth.
So if the asking price was a fourth and they turned down a second,
then I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I think that's the whole thing here is that nobody understood what was happening with Kareem Hunt. I think that the only thing I'll guarantee is that he's not a Brown next year. There's no doubt in my mind. He's going to try and sign to be a starter next year. And it might actually be that if the Raiders lose out or the Giants lose out on both of their guys and they don't, this could be a cheaper alternative to bring in and start and get very similar production. I wouldn't say Saquon-like, but similar.
All right. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We have a game tonight, and we have a Week 10 beginning, and it is a game between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I would ask Chris's opinion on any plays tonight, but if he does give you that opinion, make sure you just go the opposite way. A couple storylines to take advantage of today is who's throwing the ball for the Panthers. We saw Sam Darnold was activated off the injury reserve. We also saw little Baker Mayfield. We saw P.J. Walker. I don't know what the heck those guys are doing over there. Panthers is a complete lost, miserable season. Again, they won a game by accident a couple weeks ago. So going forward, I don't believe in this team or anybody on this team right now. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to see, if you really wanted to see I'm losing my train of thought here. If you really wanted to see who to invest in, I would take a look at a Foreman. I would take a look at Terrence Marshall, who's up on the Mojo Market right now. Those are the guys. DJ Moore, I don't know because, again, trade victim. Don't know really what's the deal with him or it was supposed to be a trade victim. I don't know. As far as Carolina, is anybody keep an eye on tonight?
Yeah, I would say Chuba Hubbard is back, and I think that's going to maybe take a little bit of the shine off of Dante Foreman. Chuba Hubbard,
that's true.
He's shown over the last couple of seasons that he's a viable candidate to fill in and do well in a spot start, and now he's not asked to spot start. I think they're just going to be sharing the load in this one, and I'm in on Foreman to a degree, but I think that the presence of Hubbard really puts me skittish on that one. I like Chuba Hubbard over Foreman, even though we saw what we saw out of Foreman a couple weeks ago. I've just done a little more research, and he's more of the breakaway guy. Atlanta has some openings on their defensive side because they can't stop the run. They can't really stop anything, but I don't anticipate anybody being able to throw the ball all over the field on the Carolina offense. I would say DJ Moore because that's the obvious one here. They have no corners in Atlanta right now. Casey Hayward's 120.
AJ Terrell?
He's out.
All right.
So yeah, and while he was playing bad anyway, so it wasn't like
true.
he was living up to the hype.
Can we finally
like?
I know Luke Sawhook on Twitter does this a lot. But like he puts like these prayer candles with like somebody in the middle, like kind of like summon the a good performance out of somebody. Can we do that today, Luke? For one, Kyle Pitts. Can we get a primetime Kyle Pitts performance of a lifetime tonight?
Kyle Pitts has been doing well the last.
I'm talking. Get in the end zone. I'm talking. 10 grabs for over 100. I'm talking just be the guy tonight in prime time. Kyle Pitts, I may or may not have traded for him in fantasy, but I'm saying it's time. Kyle Pitts, it's time, brother. Do the damn thing, okay? Get it done. That's Thursday Night Football tonight. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of this one. I'm going to assume Atlanta plays a little harder. I know this game's in Carolina.
Falcons are the only team in football that have 2 or more touchdowns in every single game this season.
Well, they're going to get a bunch of tonight. It's going to be Kyle Pitts. That's the one. Go for it.
They got their full complement of running backs back in the stable.
Cordarrelle Patterson, you got Algier, you got
Huntley.
Khalib Huntley's been
doing
very
his
good
thing.
too.
That offense is starting to click a little bit. It's a shame that the defense is not playing well because
like if they win, they'll be 5-5.
Yeah,
you know, like the Falcons, the team that I predicted in the beginning of the year to win 2 games. Already.
And a lot of people are kind of thinking that they got robbed against Tampa in that one as well.
Correct. So we'll see. You could do us a favor. Head on over to all the socials. Follow us right now. You could do that for Mojo. You can go to the Twitter, the Instagram, and TikTok at Mojo. And, of course, join the Discord. That's a lot of conversation, fun conversation throughout the course of these games, live all week long. People are sharing their portfolios, telling you who they're going long on, short on, all that stuff. Be sure to follow us. Head on over to mojo.com for all the links there. They're on the bottom of the page. And also, the incredible writing from the bloggers over there and the writers on mojo.com. A lot of information that we're getting every single day is because of those guys. So keep up the good work over there. And, of course, enjoy the football. So for Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, this has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. We're on to week number 10 tomorrow. Full slate of games. We got a lot of decisions to make with our markets and our portfolios. Let's get it done. See you guys tomorrow.